There seems to be no end to the fight for equality, something the LGBTQ+ community is more familiar with than should be necessary. In the last few years, hostility has accelerated, with the latest claims of gender-affirming medical care being child abuse, being painful, and loud. What is happening in the United States regarding gender equality, and what did Elliot Page have to say about it? We're talking about it all in this video. To start things off, Pride Week at the school district has been declared illegal by Attorney General Ken Paxton. For the last 14 years, the Austin district has celebrated Pride Week. But now, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton has accused the Austin School District of breaking state law with its Pride Week activities. Basically, Paxton has declared the whole of Pride Week to be illegal, which is why he sent a strongly worded letter to the Austin Independent School District, which he also posted on Twitter. In it, he alleges that Pride Week is a week-long instructional effort in human sexuality without parental consent. This is in opposition to state law, which requires districts to obtain written consent from parents before it is allowed to provide students with human sexuality instruction. Paxton even went as far as calling Pride Week immoral, just as much as illegal on his Twitter, stating, "I will work with and for parents to hold deceptive sexual propagandists and predators accountable." In his letter, Paxton strongly advised the district to rectify the situation, but Austin school officials have rejected Paxton's claims. According to them, he has mischaracterized and misunderstood Pride Week events. On top of that, he is factually and legally in the wrong. Pride is about celebrating who you are, and particularly the LGBTQ+ community, not sex education, which is why the Austin district will not take Paxton's advice, according to district spokesman Jason Stanford, and continue to celebrate Pride. Next, the Don't Say Gay bill. It's not just Texas where the LGBTQ+ youth are under heavy fire, and some might even say in danger of being isolated completely. On February 24th, Florida's House of Representatives passed that will restrict schools from teaching students under the age of 10 about sexual orientation and gender issues, which could lead to lawsuits if they don't comply. On March 8th, the bill passed the state Senate and is only one step away from being signed into law. If this happens, the bill will come into effect on July 1st, 2022, and require all school district plans to be updated by June 23rd, 2023. Officially, the bill is known as the Parental Rights and Education Bill, but has been dubbed the Don't Say Gay bill by activists, as it seems to single out the LGBTQ+ community. But the bill doesn't just prohibit teachers from broaching the subject of gender issues or sexual orientation. It also extends to student support services, which includes counseling, and gives parents the power to sue schools directly if they believe a teacher has broken the law. Democratic legislators proposed a series of amendments in order to clarify the bill's intent, or at the very least, separate it from its impact, by changing language that could potentially target LGBTQ+ students and their families, but to no avail. Governor Ron DeSantis is expected to sign the measure soon, after which Florida will join the 4 other U.S. states, Louisiana, Mississippi, Oklahoma, and Texas, that already have laws that explicitly prohibit or limit sex education to heterosexual activities. Next up, hundreds of bills that target LGBTQ+ people have been filed. The last decade has seen much trouble for the LGBTQ+ community in America, which seems to have been accelerated in the last few years. Especially the LGBTQ+ youth has had a particularly hard time of it, and it seems there's no end in sight for this continued attack. Just in the first 3 months of 2022, 238 anti-LGBTQ+ bills have been filed in the U.S., while the annual number of these was only 41 in 2018. Basically, every day, 3 bills are filed that attempt, and sometimes succeed, to limit the freedom of an already vulnerable group. About half of them were specifically targeted at the transgender community. According to advocates, this has created a true state of crisis for anyone in the LGBTQ+ community. Included in these bills are measures that restrict issues in school curriculums, permit religious exemptions to discriminate against LGBTQ+ people, limit their ability to participate in sports, use bathrooms that correspond with their gender identity, and receive gender-affirming healthcare, all of which is a heinous attack on equality, but especially the blows to healthcare are worrisome. In a sense, the state is making clear that a portion of the population has become so undesirable that the medical care that they may need becomes a crime. They want to make it look like these bills are about child safety, parental rights and empowerment, religious freedom, or a cocktail of these ingredients. But the reality for the LGBTQ+ community is that they're being excluded, if not criminalized. Don't go anywhere, we still have lots to talk about. Next up, we're digging into what the situation is at the moment. We're also letting you know what Elliot Page has to say about the political chaos that is currently raging in the United States, so let's get into it. But first, what happened and where are we now? In March, Republican Texas Governor Greg Abbott ordered the state's welfare agency to start investigating reports of gender-confirming care for children as child abuse. This order was triggered by the release of a non-binding legal opinion of Republican Attorney General Ken Paxton, which labeled certain gender-confirming treatments as child abuse. According to a spokesman for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services, there were no such open cases to be investigated. But not long after, the nation's largest pediatric hospital announced that it has stopped gender-affirming therapies. At first glance, this may seem like an agreement, but in a statement, Texas Children's Hospital let the public know they want to create a healthier future for all children, including transgender children, but that the step was taken to safeguard healthcare professionals and impacted families from potential criminal legal ramifications. Because the letter stated that, under state law, delivering gender-affirming medical treatments constitutes child abuse, which legally forces doctors, nurses, and teachers to report parents who aid their child in receiving such care to the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. If medical professionals fail to report any such alleged known abuse, criminal penalties may be implemented on them as well, and Texas isn't alone. More than a dozen other states are considering legislation that will ban transgender youths from medical treatment. Next up, a Texas judge blocks the state from investigating parents of transgender youth. Though the situation is definitely escalated, the LGBTQ+ community isn't alone, and efforts are absolutely being made to try and protect this vulnerable group of people. A Texas state district judge has put a temporary block on Abbott's directive that would put state authorities in a position to investigate gender-affirming medical care for transgender youth as child abuse. The ruling, made by District Judge Amy Clark Meacham in Travis County, came after the daughter of a state employee's family had come under investigation for receiving such care. This in turn led to the directive being sued by the American Civil Liberties Union and Lambda Legal. There was a day-long hearing preceding the ruling, during which the mother of the transgender teen testified. According to the court, gender-affirming care was not investigated as child abuse until after February 22, 2022, and Abbott's order has changed the status quo for transgender children and their families. The judge went on with, "The governor's directive was the effect of a new law or a new agency rule, despite no new legislation, regulation, or even stated agency policy, which seems to make crystal clear how absurd the whole situation is." Paxton doesn't seem to agree and has already made it known that they plan on taking it to the Texas Supreme Court. According to him, the decision was due to a more liberal version of a judge. And now, Elliot Page is horrified after Texas officials label gender-affirming procedures for youth as child abuse. Elliot Page is one of the most recognizable trans-masculine persons on the planet, since he posted an open and honest letter on his Instagram page in December 2020. For him, the change and coming out has been one of liberation that finally enables him to just be. But at the time, the political situation in the United States wasn't exactly warm and fuzzy, and it's only gotten worse since then, with Abbott's directive only the loudest slap in the face of the moment. There have been roars of anger throughout all industries, and Hollywood didn't wait to dish out some backlash either. Among the ones who decided this is not the time to stay quiet were Tegan and Sarah, Gabrielle Union, and Jamie Lee Curtis, who has a transgender daughter, just to name a few. But if there's someone who feels the cold-heartedness of the situation, it's Elliot Page. In a statement to Variety, the actor said, "I am horrified by the inhumane and downright dangerous declarations by the Texas governor and attorney general. I stand with trans youth and their families. Just like anyone else, no matter what your personal feelings are, trans youth deserve gender-affirming care and should be able to live their true, authentic selves without fear and oppression." And that was it. All you need to know about what the LGBTQ+ community currently has to deal with in the United States. How do you feel about it? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching.